Good morning, it's Leanne Scott here from Chirp, your chirpy bird. With me today, I've got Clare Ryan from Cybersk, all the way from Ireland, and I'd love to introduce you. So Clare, welcome, and please tell us a little about who you are and what your journey's been so far.
Hi Leanne, thanks so much for having us on. Yep, as you so rightly say, I am one of the co-founders and currently the CEO of a company called Cybersk. We are developing a piece of cybersecurity software. So essentially, it is a data analytics platform for small, medium-sized businesses to manage their cyber risk, which will eventually help them to get access to cheaper cyber insurance. I'm technically a first-time tech founder. So I played in businesses before, but mostly kind of in convenience stores and some food production outlets feeding into the hospitality sector. But this is my first time in a tech startup, and I'm actually not a technical founder.
So do you find that quite difficult being a non-tech founder? How do you manage that as you are building a tech product?
Yeah, I certainly find it difficult now. My co-founder is technical. They're an IT background and they have a cybersecurity specialism as well that wraps around it, but I'm actually a scientist by trade. So I do find it challenging practically, sometimes dealing with other providers, software developers, or particularly knowledgeable investors in the tech sector. They almost dismiss you as a non-technical founder, but in reality, I find it much easier for translating our product to the customer. So I tend to cut out the waffle and the jargon whenever I'm dealing with customers and trying to reach out to do that customer validation piece. So I find it really useful that I can balance what I know the product can do and what the business need is for the ultimate customer, and not just solely rely on this is our tech stack and this is the type of language that we're coding in and here's how it's scalable. But there are challenges. There's definitely challenges that come with it.
It can be frustrating. I think you and I both have had our fair share of developer troubles, but that's for another conversation. So in terms of what the risk of cyber for small businesses, I think there is a lot more talk around cybersecurity, but I suspect small businesses are still maybe a little bit head in the sand and worried about cost. So how do you see what you're offering being able to benefit small businesses? And will it be global or is it UK based?
Yeah, I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head. For a lot of smaller size business and micro businesses in particular, there's always a balance between what they see as the return of investment in technology and the cost associated with that. With cyber, it can be difficult to allocate a budget, particularly to something that you don't see impact your marketing. Yes, for micro businesses and small businesses, the challenge always remains then, what proportion of your budget do you allocate to security and how much do you need it? And for many businesses, they're led normally through a third-party provider, an outsourced IT provider who looks after their emails and deals with issues with the printer, and they add a bit of security onto the end of it. And for many businesses, they believe they're being fully protected and they pay for what the IT professional is telling them, but there's a lack of visibility on what's actually involved there. How well protected are you and what's your money actually going towards? And are you in the best possible position to protect your customer data? And that's exactly what our dashboard will do. It'll help show all that very clearly for the non-technical business owner.
So it's definitely a little bit more than just Norton's.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's really different about our product. And that's where the uniqueness comes in. We're looking at all of the different elements of security together. Everything from your antivirus on your laptop to your backups and how often they're taken. Are they taken on the cloud or you do them yourself? Through to security awareness training. How often do you train your staff and how effective has that been for your organization? So we're pulling all these pieces together in one place rather than you trying to hunt out different elements and not being aware of where the gap is.
Brilliant. Obviously, Clare, you and I have been in the Raise Ventures Accelerator and we've been on our startup journey. Tell me a little bit about your startup journey as a founder. What have you done? What have you tried? Do you find accelerators really worth the time and effort?
So when we initially started out, we didn't plan on building a tech product. Ironically, we very much had the anticipation of being a service-led business and generating some revenue through that. So in the initial stages of our kind of journey, it was hunting customers and chasing money, and the product grew from that. We have been involved in a number of different accelerators at different points in our journey. So we're now getting into our 4th year. We're involved in some very early ones, some female specific ones, and with Raise Ventures. I think there is a time and a place for accelerators. And I think you have to be very open-minded about where you are in your journey, pitch at the right level for you you can always join accelerators later on. And I've watched various startups come in and out of the accelerator kind of ecosystem at different points. Some accelerators obviously have a financial reward associated with them. Some take some equity, and other ones then are, I would call them vanity accelerators. They're very easy to get into and they don't actually turn too much for you at the other end. If you find the accelerator is simply going over stuff that you know already, it's not really worth the investment in your time. You're better off dedicating that time to chasing customers and validating your product further. I can certainly see where the incentive would be to find an accelerator that has some cash associated with it, but I would still encourage founders to look very carefully at that accelerator. What have the successful participants done in the past? And what are you hoping to achieve from the other end of it? We would regularly get invites from accelerators who are seeking participants, but not all of them would be in the best interest of our organization to take part in. And it's sometimes been brave enough to say, no, it's not the right time for me, or I'm too far in the journey to actually revisit that now.
But you've had some amazing successes, a couple that I know of. Give us a few highlights over the last couple of years.
You're very kind, Leanne. We were Zurich's Innovation Champion for Ireland in 2020. So we were seen as the most innovative insurtech product on the market, particularly feeding into cyber insurance. And we went on to pitch in the EMEA stages for that, and were highly commended for our customer-centric product. We were a regional winner in a competition run by Intertrade Ireland, the Seacorn competition, which is a very prestigious business plan competition towards the end of 2022. And companies that have won that in the past have gone on to raise quite substantial funding rounds and be very successful. So we were lucky to pitch at that final in that. And most recently in April, we won the Cyberden as part of Cyber UK. So Cyber UK is the UK government's flagship conference for cybersecurity in terms of national security, but also demonstrating innovative startups. So we were very lucky in that we were one of 10 startups that were selected to actually take part in the innovation, and we won their Cyberden. So we're getting to work with the National Cybersecurity Centre for the next 12 months in enhancing our product and testing our product and trying to get it into the marketplace quicker.
Amazing. So I imagine that you got quite a lot of visibility and coverage from that. Have you felt the benefits of that visibility?
Definitely. Now, I suppose there's two sides to visibility as a startup. It's great when someone else validates your startup and someone else is shouting about your successes and telling your story. And I think what tends to happen with a startup is that you forget the PR side, or you're very sporadic with the PR side of it, and you're not continuously making sure that you are seen in the ecosystem. I can hand on my heart say that those accolades have made such a difference to having conversations with investors and conversation with ultimate clients. So very much the insurance industry that we're looking to sell into. But if you have those accolades behind you and you have third-party validation, it makes it easier to have that. So it has been useful. Like every startup, you'd love to have more visibility, but it becomes a challenge whenever you're trying to manage so many different sections within your company and trying to make sure that you're always front and present as well.
It sounds like you need Chip to help with that. We'll have a conversation
Definitely
about that afterwards. Brilliant. So in terms of managing your content production, or in terms of managing that visibility, you have mentioned that it can be difficult. How do you do it? Are you consistent with your approach to visibility, or do you just hope and pray that it's all going to come together?
So we haven't been to date, okay, and I suppose that's been the victim of being a small team and trying to chase and develop the tech and trying to chase and enhance customers and bring more revenues in. And we've been quite lucky to date in terms of business has always been referred to us. But actually for the last 2 weeks, we've been sitting down and working on a branding strategy and that communication piece for launching a rebrand of Cybersk in Q1 of 2024. So it'll be the first time our product comes live into the wider marketplace. And we've recently secured a new trademark, IDIS Protect, so it'll come onto that new brand. So it is back to the fundamentals of building the branding around that, and then very much the visibility and the content marketing that wraps around that and trying to put that together as a strategy.
Amazing. So there's lots of successes, but we know that running a startup is a bit of a roller coaster. And so I imagine there's been some downs as well. What would have been some of your biggest low points, and how have you managed and dealt with them yourself as a founder?
Yeah, sometimes ironically, low points are generated from really high points that go horribly wrong. And I suppose we've had experiences before where we've had offers of funding coming into the company that were withdrawn very last minute. So lots of plans had been made, and in your head, you were moving forward with the cycle and you thought, yes, this is it. We're on the journey now and we're really starting to move, to have the mat pulled from under your feet very quickly. Working with real customers, there's always that issue of work maybe being undervalued or people having different expectations to what you thought you had agreed on. Chasing bad debt is always a painful thing, and it can be soul destroying when you've gone on in good faith to do work for it. And I think COVID's had a massive impact on us. So I know I had said there we're coming into our 4th year, which sounds old in the startup world, but we tend to forget that COVID had a massive impact on all startups in terms of traction and what you were able to do and how you developed and moved forward with that. So whilst you feel that you haven't made as much of an inroads, or you haven't progressed as quickly as other startups, you kind of forget that you were here in COVID and that you've dealt with those challenges as well.
Yeah, they absolutely had an impact. I don't think I know of a single startup that didn't feel that impact. And in terms of your own, I find for myself as a founder, it's that mental capacity, that mental well-being to actually manage those ups and downs. And it can be really difficult. Have you found that you have coping strategies, or are you really strong mentally? We all say we're strong. How strong are you really?
Yeah, I think when you start off in kind of the startup journey, you get caught up in the wave and you keep going and you keep going because you think this is it. I have to say that by the time I did hit some kind of roadblocks, it did start to take its toll on me. And I thought everything was because I wasn't good enough, or I hadn't got our product to where I needed it to be, or I hadn't made enough kind of progress compared to other people, and people wouldn't be interested in me. And it did have an impact. Certainly mid last year, I really felt it. And you get to the point where you think, I'm just going to get a job. There's easier ways to live than keep going with this. And that, I think everybody touches on that at some point on their journey. And that's what kind of makes you or breaks you. But interestingly that you bring this up, I actually set some money aside last year, and I've worked with a strategist about mental resilience who specializes in tech founders. And I've worked through the program over 6 weeks about this idea. It's called the Thrive program. So the idea is that you look at the metrics of what you can control and what you can't control. And you try to be very rational with feedback and very rational with how processes are actually occurring and not what you perceive them to be. And it has made a massive difference to me, particularly now that we're raising funds and trying to go through that journey, understanding that no's, for example, trying to take the positives out of that, being clear why it's a no, not always reflecting it on a lesser person that you are, and just being able to process that much more clearly. And it's something I would encourage everybody to do, particularly if you're going on the funding journey, is to invest some time in your own mental resilience, because I think it helps our team. I've noticed a change in the team because I can now process things much more clearly. They're not as up and down as what we were last year. So it really does have a wider impact on it. So would recommend it to all technical founders.
You want to give us the name of the resource? Because that sounds something we all need, definitely for myself.
Yeah, so it's called the Thrive program, and I did it with Keelan Buckley. So if you look up Thrive with Keelan, there are a number of different kind of consultants that are throughout the UK and throughout the globe with it, but I would highly recommend it. And sure, if anybody is interested, they can always get in contact with yourself, Leanne, and I'll share the details with you.
Amazing, thank you. That sounds really good. So I have a question for you based on that. Do you find that, and this would maybe be an interesting one because you are a male and female founding team, that you mentioned about wondering whether sometimes are you not good enough? Is it something to do with you? Is that a female way of looking at it, or did you and your business partner both feel the same?
It's definitely a female way of looking at it. I can wholeheartedly say that. My male co-founder and I both sat in a meeting in March in the UK. My understanding of what took place at the meeting and my perception of the outcome of the meeting was completely polar opposite to his. And I couldn't believe that he couldn't see what I seen. But it was only after I processed it using the skills from that Thrive program that I realized, no, I had slipped and gone down the rabbit hole of they don't like me. I didn't know the answer to this. I should have been better prepared, rather than there are other, this is not what was said. The sentence is just the sentence, and stop reading 10 steps into it. So it's definitely something the females are more prone to. And I can see that happening. Yeah, men don't seem to think in the same way as female founders do.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Definitely. In a marriage and a business partnership, I've seen it so many times. And it is interesting because I find when I'm working with female founders, especially on the visibilities, I can't say that, they're a little bit more shy, they're a little bit more humble. It's really difficult to get them to talk about the wins and to really celebrate the wins. And it is interesting to hear your perspective, because I think it is definitely a female affliction that we all need to work on our internal confidence. Brilliant. So in terms of where you're at, I know in your journey, where are you at now? Are you raising funds? Are you looking for customers? Tell us a bit about the next 60 to 90 days, or maybe even 6 months to 9 months plan for yourself.
So we had kind of gone down the bootstrapping route. Again, based on feedback, people will tell you have more traction and don't give away too much equity, etc. And it's very hard work, Leanne, to bootstrap. Trying to cover all your normal expenses and set some money aside for development is really challenging. So towards the end of last year, we made the decision that we would actually now take on some investment to give up some equity. So we're doing a pre-seed round, and it's only at $500,000. So it's not a huge amount of money. But we're being very clear in that we hope to double our company valuation with that $500,000 in investment. So we've had really good conversations, both with some funds in the UK, with some VCs who would like to join us for the next round, and some angels. So within the next 6 months, I certainly would like to have that funding round closed out. As I say, we're working now on our branding and PR strategy for launching the new brand. The tech sprint has all been designed, waiting on the cash to come in. And in January, we'd like to have the product in the market, in the wider market, in the UK and Irish markets as our initial landing point. So in 9 months' time, we'd like to say that we have at least 1,000 customers on board using our product from a new sales channel that we don't currently have access to, and then begin the conversations then for a further rounding funding, probably in about 15 to 18 months.
Wonderful. And so your current round of funding, is it still open?
It is now. We have about 60% of that funding round committed. So there definitely is room for the right type of investors. So if there are investors who are interested in insurance or have some knowledge of cybersecurity, or who would just like to get involved in a really hot space with a huge growth rate, then certainly happy to have those conversations as well.
Did you want to give us your 60-second pitch?
Absolutely. So we are building a data analytics platform for the SME sector to help them manage their cybersecurity and avail of cyber insurance at a more cost-effective rate. Our product's unique in that it's been designed for the non-technical business owner, and we are able to detect near-miss cyber attacks to help prevent a business having a cyber incident in the first place and reducing cyber claims as a result.
Amazing. That was very well rehearsed. Very good. So kind of just as we come to the end, what words of advice do you have for startup founders who are on the fundraising trail, who are trying to get noticed? Any words of wisdom you'd like to share?
Yeah, I suppose learning from some of my mistakes, as they say, have lots of conversations with lots of people at the same time. I found that very difficult to process in the beginning because I thought it was a little bit like dating. It's wrong to date 100 people at the one time. But actually, in hindsight, have lots and lots of conversations all running simultaneously. And then if any of them fall through, you have other fish that are still kind of in play for you to hunt. In terms of from a general kind of founder's perspective, I would say be very careful of the advice that you take, cross-reference advice that's given to you. Go and find people who are really knowledgeable in different sectors, in different places. At a very fundamental level, valuations are different in the UK than they are in Ireland, and in Northern Ireland, they're different again. Perception about products are different. If you're not talking to someone who understands security, for example, they may not see the benefit. So find the right type of people, keep the balance. Don't have everybody telling you the same thing. Just be careful with the advice that you take.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think for me, so much good advice. And I think that's why I love talking to founders, is that you learn, you can see where you went wrong, but you learn so much from others' experience. Because that was in the beginning, I found that really difficult when one person would tell me this, so I changed the slide deck. And then the next person would go, why is that slide over there? It makes no sense that you've moved it to the end. It's the most important slide. I'm, okay, move it back again. And I think this time around in my journey, I'm much more, if you don't like it, then you're not the right person, because actually it makes total sense to me why it's here. And it's just that piece about taking advice is really important, is to have your own kind of foundations firm.
And timing can be really important as well. Like I first remember when I very first pitched the product that we're building and talked about cyber insurance, one of the very first comments that I got back was, sure, no one will buy cyber insurance. And it's now, as I say, one of the biggest growing sectors that you can actually be involved in. And everybody is tuned into it. And we've had massive success in year 4. But in year 1, somebody would have says, waste of time, don't bother exploring that. It's definitely really be reflective and be careful who you listen to.
Yeah, I love that. I think that soundbite is going to be our number one from the whole day. So Claire, thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your journey or advice or an ask of help where you need some support?
I suppose the one thing I would say to founders is don't ever think it's a quick win. If you think you're going to come up with a business idea and in 6 months you're going to have a product in the market and you're going to be turning revenue and you're going to be exiting within 3 to 5 years, that's never going to happen. So if you're going to do it, be prepared for the long haul. And it's something that not enough people talk about. The fact you don't get paid, that you might only pay yourself minimum wage, that money gets really tight, that you have to downsize as you go along to meet the need before you become a success. Be tuned into that. And I suppose in terms of an ask, certainly in terms of filling our fundraising round, as I say, if there are angels that are out there or any sort of funds that are out there that are happy to have a conversation, even if it's not for now and you're really interested in watching our journey over the next 12 months or so, do reach out. We are EIS Advanced Assured for the UK, so you'll get special tax relief if you're a UK taxpayer as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Claire. It's been so great to hear about your journey and to resonate with some of the things that you've been through, because I've been through some very similar situations myself. Thank you very much. Best of luck with your raise. We'll be looking and watching your journey for sure. And we probably need to get some cybersecurity software off you as well. So let me know. So that's Leanne Scott from Chirp with Clare Ryan. And let's hope we have a chirpy good week this week. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.